Welcome everyone to Inside Leverage. I'm your host, Finn's Mechanic, here with the usuals, Wally and French, and we have our very special guests. Guys, what's going on? How you guys feeling?
Hey man, listen, we got another week of football. Last week, 2 weeks ago, we didn't have no football. I feel rejuvenated. We're so back.
Yes, yes. What about you, French? How you feeling? Oh, you're muted, my boy.
He's in his office again.
Can you hear me better?
There you go,
There you
loud and
go, friend.
clear.
There you go. Good job.
What I will say is, man, anytime you go into a week with a dub, coming off a dub from last week, feels good being a champion. I'll take a win even if it's in preseason. So we got the Commanders this week. I'm excited.
Barbecue chicken.
Excited.
Barbecue chicken.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you. And before we introduce our guest, I want to give a quick reminder to our fans to make sure to sign up for our PrizePicks.com, the official fantasy partner of 5 Reasons Sports, legal in the state of Florida. So you sign up with the code 5 and make your first $5 play, and PrizePicks will give you $50 more to play. No string attached. So remember, use the code 5, that's FIVE, and you could get that $50 to play even more with no string attached. All right. So there you go. That's the promo. Without further ado, Zach Shelby, what's going on with you, my guy? Thank you so much for coming through. Did I pronounce your name properly? It's Selby, right?
I mean,
yeah, that's actually one of the few people who has actually pronounced it correctly. Most people go by just say Shelby because it's so close to those names. But that's correct.
I did say, I'm glad you didn't hear it the first time because I said it real quick because I wasn't sure. But then I got like Selby. There you go. So appreciate you coming by.
There's no H. Where's the H? Where's the H?
It's almost like it's like a silent H, I think. So people just like there's some like things going on. Like the people just see it and they're like, oh yeah, Shelby, yeah, of course.
It's like the G in lasagna. It's like the G in lasagna. It's there. It's there.
Yeah, but it's silent.
Senior beat writer for the Commanders, appreciate you for taking the time to hang out with us as we prepare for joint practice number 2 for the Miami Dolphins. Did you guys have a joint practice last week with anybody?
Yeah, actually, we had a joint practice with the Jets. It was a really good test for these guys because even though the Jets were 7-10 last year, it's a little bit of a false record for them because they've still got a top 5 defense. They've still got Aaron Rodgers coming back that's going to be able to get passes to Garrett Wilson and Al Lazard. I mean, it's an offense that's really set up for success when you have the right quarterback. And, of course, last year they didn't for various reasons. You had to deal with the dog in him, Zach Wilson, and a bunch of other people. But, no, it was a good test. I think you came out of New Jersey feeling – I think there were some things you liked out of Jaden Daniels for sure. Even though it was 11 plays, you saw a lot of excitement there with that 42-yard shot to De'Ami Brown. Depth plus still has some issues in some areas, particularly in the offensive line, secondary there. But like I said, it's preseason. That's what this time is for, to figure out all the questions you have before week 1.
The Jets suck.
I mean, anytime you get out there, you got to earn it, right? Anytime you get out there, you got to earn it. You say the Jets suck, but did they win the game? You know what I mean?
I hate the Jets. It's okay.
But
they did win that game. Yeah, it came down to like a game-winning field goal. It felt electric as a preseason game can be, I guess.
Hey, man, preseason is exciting now because you get less games. The roster cuts are one big bang, so you kind of get these guys like going full. It's exciting, man. I remember back in the days, preseason games were like a drag, man. Like, oh man, whatever. Now these 3 games are important, especially with this new kickoff situation. So they want to see a lot of different things.
Dolphins. Yes, sir, for sure.
All right.
Question for you. What are you expecting for this upcoming joint practice? Are you here in Florida? You'll be attending the practices?
I will not be attending the practices. I will be keeping a good eye on our videographers and our photographers and all the other social media teams out there to make sure they're going to keep me up to date. But as far as what I'm expecting the Commanders to go up against a really, really tough test against one of the AFC's best teams. I mean, last week, you had like I said, a pretty good test with Garrett Wilson. You had DJ Reed out there. You had Sauce Gardner. This week, you're going to have Kendall Fuller, obviously, who was with the Commanders last year. You have Jalen Ramsey, one of the top corners in the league right now. And then on offense, obviously, you've got Waddle and Tyreek Hill, who is really going to test this secondary, because that's been one of my biggest questions about this Commanders team all offseason is how is the secondary going to look, because they brought in a lot of pieces, right? They brought in Noah Igbenogany, Michael Davis. They drafted Mike Samerstill, who's looked really good in training camp, and they add that with Benjamin St-Juste and Emmanuel Forbes. They got a lot of pieces and parts there, but you don't really know exactly how they're all going to work, and it seems like you're kind of sort of getting an answer, but you're gonna learn a lot about what the secondary can be, whether or not it's going to be a repeat of last year where they were giving up some of the most explosive plays in league history. And you've got to test that against Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. You come out of Miami going against those guys, you're going to have a very good indication of where you are in terms of your talent, your depth. Any other questions you have with your secondary, you're gonna get a pretty good answer on them. Now, do I expect Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle to get their moments? Yeah, of course. They're two of the best receivers in the league, of course. But at the same time, this is not the same philosophy that you were seeing last year. Jack Del Rio is gone. Joe Witt Jr. is in now. He is pretty much described, hey, we're going to be a run and hit defense. We're going to crowd around the ball. We're going to make it really hard for these receivers to catch passes. We're going to be physical at the line of scrimmage, and we're going to force turnovers. And you're really going to see how much that philosophy has been ingrained into these players with this Miami offense that is really one of the best in the league, and just going out of the way with talent. I'm excited to see what they do with it. Like I said, I expect Miami to be Miami. But at the same time, I really look forward to see how the Commanders are going to stack up against one of the premier playoff teams from last year.
I mean, I've been snooping around Commander Spaces lately, just trying to listen to see what you guys are talking about.
Yeah, sure.
Shout out to Commander Spaces, man. They do great work on Twitter, putting out Commander content, man. Shout out to the guys over there. But one of the things I know you mentioned, you wanted to see what your secondary does against this team, but what would you say is a position of strength for your team? I know you all have spoke about, and being in Commander Spaces, you spoke about, I believe, the guard, or they spoke about the guard Cosby, and they mentioned that he's elite as kind of what you guys might call him as kind of one of the guys that you all got a lot of stock in. But what would you say as a position of depth for you guys as far as what you're looking to see and, guys battling for roster spots?
Yeah, so I'll give you one spot on offense and I'll give you one spot on defense. I mean, to your point, I think guard, if you're going to go with just a specific offensive lineman, guard is definitely one of the best spots they have, especially on the right side with Sam Cosmi. This is one of the best guards in the league last year, after really not playing the position at all in his career, high school or college. Transitions over from right tackle, and all of a sudden he's one of the best offensive linemen that they have. Probably one of the biggest hits they've had in the draft of the last 6 years or so. I mean, he's really quick. He's got the size. He's got the physicality. And he's really been an anchor on this offensive line. Just to show how important he is, the Commanders went through a significant offensive line change over the last few months or so. Got rid of basically all of the left side, including the center. They bring in a new center, a new left guard, a new left tackle, possibly depending on what Brandon Coleman does, the third-round pick out of TCU. Kazu was really one of the only offensive linemen that they kept. And that speaks a lot to how much he's grown, his talent level, his development, and how much they really trust that he's really gained the trust of this new staff. On defense, I'd say the linebacking core is probably the strongest position of the group, just because you have Bobby Wagner, who is obviously a future Hall of Famer. Like he's the leading among active players in total tackles. He's among the most tackles in league history, among inactive and retired player. Or he's everything you would want out of a linebacker. He's got leadership. He has the spunk. He's still got a lot of physicality, even though he's up there in age for his position. I mean, he's put up 100 tackles every single year of his career, and I would totally expect that again. And you can see how his presence affects the entire group, because everyone has spoken about it. Like, his leadership is just it just exudes into the entire team, from not even just on defense, but on offense as well. They all try to go to him for advice. They're all looking at him to see what he does, because he's had a long career. Not everybody can do that. So he's giving them a guide and say, hey, this is how I was productive. This is what I can do. This is what you can do to have this kind of career as well. Maybe not as physical in coverage as he used to be. I mean, that was never one of his biggest strengths, but at the same time, you can still do it adequately enough. He's really going to be your run stopper. He's going to be your leader on that defense. And then obviously you've got other players there like Frankie Lua. He has been one of the most standout players of the entire training camp for the Commanders. He's super fast. He is super versatile. I mean, if you could say he'd probably just be a defensive end, he could do it, because he's got the quickness, he's got the speed, he's got all the arsenal of pass rush moves. He's an impressive specimen, and he's always going after the ball. There was one play I remember where Jaden Daniels throws out to Zach Ertz, who's been one of his best targets all camp, and you see Frankie Lewis sprinting from across the field and knocking the ball loose for what may have been a fumble. But that's kind of the attitude that he has. He is pretty much. Remember when I said Joe Witt Jr. is just exuding this run and hit defensive style into this unit? He is like the poster boy of that philosophy. He is going to run. He's going to hit you hard. He's going to hit you from a lot of different areas. And he's been one of the most exciting guys. And now, obviously, they also have Jordan McGee out of Temple, who's going through a little bit of a knee issue. We're hoping that he's going to get back sometime soon. But they've also got Anthony Pittman, a good depth player. It's from top to bottom, I think it's been one of the better positions that was honestly like one of the worst in the league last year. They've done a lot to improve that position. So I would say, yeah, the linebacking core is of the defensive players, of the defense side of the ball, it's definitely their strength.
Okay. I like that.
All right, Zach. So you kind of alluded to kind of a part of my question, but I'll ask it anyways. Like you said, there's a new coaching staff. So what are the biggest changes you noticed this season, going into training camp this season? You noticed?
Man, there's been a lot actually. In terms of just what you see around the facility, because they're undergoing a lot of construction right now, trying to improve the facility. But in terms of philosophy, I know a lot of people, whenever DQ got hired, they said it was Ron Rivera 2.0. And I can understand on the surface level why some people would say that. He's a defensive-minded head coach. He's older. Like they've got a lot of broad similarities. But once you really get to know who Dan Quinn is, you would realize that they are completely different people. And that's not to disparage Ron Rivera. It obviously didn't work out, but he very much helped the team in a lot of ways, getting out of whatever funk they were in 2019. But DQ, I'd say he exudes a lot of energy it's infectious. Like, he knows how to tap into these younger players. And that's such a big skill to have right now, because, you could very easily go, and he's not too old as a coach. I think he's in his 50s, but it'd be very easy for a coach at that age to be like, well, we're going to do it this way. It's back in my day. This is how we did things. But, that's not how players do things anymore. It's a very different style of athlete, and he knows how to tap into that. That's as someone who is, 50 something years old, that's not something you can discount. I mean, he's very much like we're going to figure out the best way for us, not just my way or the highway. And, the practices themselves, I think they've been about an hour and a half long, not very long, but they are very dense practices. You're not seeing a lot of players just standing around doing nothing, like maybe they were in a couple of years ago. I mean, for example, when they do individual drills, it was very, very routine, quarterbacks throwing passes to receivers. There's not just two quarterbacks throwing to two different lines of receivers. All the quarterbacks, including the assistant David Blau, like they're all out there throwing to 5 or 6 different guys. So you have like in total 11 or 12 players on the field just doing something. That says a lot because you're able to get more out of the minutes that you're in. You don't have to be at practice for 2.5 hours just because you're a hardo or something like that. Like as long as you're out there and you get the work in, that's all that matters. And they've really taken advantage of that. Now, and there's been some practices where they've been lighter than others, but they've been very smart with how they've constructed their practice routines, right? It's not all like we're going to go 100% of the time, all the time. It's very much like almost like a ramp up period, like where you have lighter practices that lead up to more intense practices as you go along throughout the week. And that's to take care of the players because they've been very adamant that, yes, we want to win as many games as possible, but we're not winning games in August. We're trying to make sure we're all healthy to win games in September and October and November. That's what really matters. And that's honestly, that's how you win the most games in like week 12 through 6 through 17, 18. It's a lot about who's healthy and who's out there. And if you can take care of the players, that's really, really important. So I think that's been the biggest thing that I've noticed is that they're very smart with how they do things. They're very energetic. And they've gotten a way to get these players to buy into the message. And a really cool thing that happened before every practice is they do like this bag drill where like the whole team, just all 90 players just run through these bags on offense and defense. And the coaches get like hyped for it. The players get hyped for it. The music is blaring. And it's such like a high school thing to do, but the players they're bought into it. So like, that's really all that matters. Like who cares if it's so simple? Like, if you're bought into it and it gets you hyped up for the rest of the day, then that's the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing. That's those small things that I've really come to appreciate about this coaching staff.
Certainly, for sure. It always takes the right coach to kind of get the players to buy in with their what they're trying to bring to the team. Of course, wins are important and that results are what really can keep it consistent. But when you hear stuff like that, especially when you're bringing a new head coach, a new coordinators, and just a new system overall, you want to kind of get a lot of the players to buy in to what you're trying to show them. Zach Selby, senior beat writer for the Commanders, is joining us. Appreciate you for coming through. You talked a little bit about your offensive line and the defense. I want to kind of focus a little bit about your quarterbacks. How's that been with that process? Who's doing well, who isn't so far?
Yeah, honestly, I'm surprised we've gotten almost 20 minutes into this and not even mentioned Jaden Daniels that much. But they've taken a very intentional approach with Jaden. That he and DQ put it very simple that it's not a secret, but it is a journey. And you've seen the path. They put him on a very specific path about how they want to increase his workload as he gets closer to being a starting quarterback. And he started off training camp by basically just splitting reps with him and Marcus Mariota. And Mariota would take the majority of the ones, and then Jaden would work mostly with the twos. But it also didn't really matter that much because there was so much rotation with the receivers and the tight ends and all that other stuff. It's like both quarterbacks were getting worse with the starters in a certain sense. But as practice went along and you were seeing some of the throws that Jaden was making, it flipped where Jaden he's honestly the guy who's taking most of, if not all of the reps with the starters right now. And what I'm really excited to see, what I've really honestly been excited to see for the entirety of training camp is for the rest of the league to see what we've been seeing with Jaden over the last few weeks. And again, there's a coach out there who likes to keep your powder dry because it is still August, but the dude looks really special. Like he's doing a lot of things that make you just go, wow, that's some really high end ball right there. I mean, just take the pass that he had to Diami against the Jets, for example. It was yes, I know like the starters were not out there, but he makes a check to that play. It was originally supposed to be a screen. He makes a check because he didn't like the look. He saw everyone was close to the line of scrimmage. He takes it 2 steps back, just drops it in the bucket. And it doesn't matter whether or not that DJ Reed out there or not. That was a contested ball. Like there was not a lot of rips, really good coverage by the corner on that play, and he just drops it in there. And that's the kind of stuff you've seen throughout training camp. It's just like he makes these really elite throws, and of course he's still got things to learn. But he's been very adamant about, hey, I'm not a star quarterback. I'm a rookie. I've still got a lot of things to learn. He's saying all these really good things in press conferences that make you go, wow, this dude is really mature beyond his years. He's in the building before even a lot of, like, most of, if not all, the veterans. He's in there at 5 a.m. getting work in with him and Luke McCaffrey. They're in there just getting work before everyone else is. He's studying film harder than everybody else is because Cliff Kingsbury was saying, I don't know how much the dude studies, but it has to be an intense amount because every time we come in on the next day and go through the concepts, he's like, yep, got it. Like, and he does that in a way that's like, it's like this dude shouldn't, like, he's not doing this as a rookie. It seems like he's well beyond his years. And the ball like rarely touches the ground. There was a play, there was a theory, the practice earlier this week where he only had one incompletion all practice. And it was a play that could have been caught anyway. And that's something that he knows how to take care of the ball. That's such a big skill to have as a rookie.
That's big. Yeah.
He is because he puts passes in areas where only the receiver can get it. Like with the play to Diami, only Diami could have caught that ball. Only Diami. And even in the practice that we only had one incompletion, Terry missed the ball, but he had his hand on it, and only he could have caught that ball. Only he could have caught it. So that's what's just been so impressive about him is, and I know they haven't named him as the starter yet, but like when you watch him out there, you realize like it doesn't really matter because you see who's the best quarterback on the field. Like, and that's not to disparage Mariota. Like Mariota's done some good things. It's just like that's not where Mariota is in his career right now. It's just a different kind of dude. And now, like, I know a lot of people are saying like have a lot of great expectations for Jaden, and I think they should. That's God bless them. That's what they should do. And who knows if he's going to hit those expectations or not, but he's very much got them on the path to say they might not be, a playoff team this year, maybe not next year, but in the very near future, they're going to be a problem. He's going to be a problem. And there's nothing that's made me say, oh, I don't know if that was the right pick. Maybe they should have taken Drake May or something like that. No, he has been every single test he has been put up against, he has passed. And so that's why I'm really excited to see what he does against the Dolphins because he's passed every other test. This is the biggest test that he's had so far. So it's another playoff caliber team. And if he can go out there and ball out in his way, it's going to be impressive to watch. I just know it is.
Sky's the limit. That's true. Yeah.
Anthony Weaver is not having any of that.
Well, Zach, just to build off what you're saying and kind of what he's been showing you, can we switch to those wide receivers? Because just like you said, you wanted to see how your cornerbacks, we got some cornerbacks that got some dog in them. Ethan Bonner, some guys that are showing up. You got Cam Smith showing up and showing out. Can you talk about maybe your wide receivers and kind of, what they got on their hands as far as going against this Dolphins secondary? Storm Duck and some of these guys have been performing in camp and then, the preseason game. So can you talk about your wide receivers and kind of what they're showing you?
Yeah, I mean, the receivers, they seem like they're one of the most competitive position groups every year. And this is another case of that because I think at the top of the group, your answers are pretty clear, right? You have Terry, which is going to be really exciting to see him go up against Jalen Ramsey and Kendall Fuller. Those are two really good corners, and you always like to see best on best. But you've also got Jahan Dotson. You've got Olamide Zaccheaus, who looked like he was going to be a special team signing, but like has been like one of Jaden's best targets, and he's really balled out in camp. He's had a really, really good couple of practices so far. Then you've got Luke McCaffrey, obviously, who I don't know if he's going to be he's going to set the world on fire, but he does have a very specific role for this team, and I think he's going to be good at it eventually.
Seem he'll be reliable, like one of those guys.
I think he will be. He's not going to like ever lead the team in targets or anything like that, but like he's going to be a really good player for this team. But then I think at the bottom of the position group, I think that's where you get things really interesting. So you've got this guy named Bryson Tremaine. Now that name probably doesn't mean that much to a lot of people, but this dude has been one of the biggest, like most successful deep threats in practice, like not just through in training camp, but like in OTAs, mini camp. The dude just comes up with balls. Like he knows how to beat guys deep downfield, and he definitely adds something that this Commanders team doesn't really have, because you have Terry, Jahan, Luke, Olamide, like they're all like small, quick guys. This guy is 6'4" and 220 pounds. Like he's got size in a way that most of the roster doesn't really have right now. And I would expect him. Yeah, I think he's got a really, really good chance to make the roster as a second-year player. He obviously still has a long way to go, but what you're seeing is a lot of really good stuff. I mean, he had a couple of really good deep ball receptions against the Jets in joint practice. Had a 16-yard reception in the preseason game. If he does that again against this secondary, he's going to be very hard to ignore whenever the roster stuff comes out. I mean, we'll see. I mean, like again, he's an undrafted guy. Like he's playing with house money. So if he does well, that's awesome. But also I would say Davion Davis has looked pretty solid. Mitchell Tinsley, a guy that made the roster last year, has made a couple of really nice catches. And then obviously we added Martavis Bryant the other day. And here's the thing about him is
sneaky good pickup.
Yeah, it could be. It really could be. Now DQ has seen him a lot in practice with the Cowboys last year because he was the DC. He liked the looks that he gave the defense in practice. Now the problem with Martavis is that he hasn't played in an NFL game since 2018. That's a long time. I mean, in NFL years, that's like 30 years ago. Like seriously, it's a long time. And it's not like he's done nothing, right? He's been in the CFL, he's been in the Fan Control League, he's done some other like stuff. But the NFL is the NFL. And he, again, does offer a lot of things that they don't really have on this roster. He's got size, and based on his history, his resume, he can really stretch the field. He did some elite stuff in Pittsburgh, some like elite top 15 receiver stuff. If he can catch that and capture that again, that adds another wrinkle to this offense. Now the problem is he came into training camp real late. So he's gonna have to get adjusted to the offense. He's gonna have to get up to speed. He's gonna have to learn everything in hyper speed if he wants to make this roster. So I'm interested to see how much he plays in this joint practice in the preseason game, because he only had 2 snaps in his first practice, so it really wasn't a whole lot. He's mostly just kind of watching and learning. So if he ends up hitting, it's a great move by Washington. If not, I could also see him being on the practice squad, letting him develop, and then elevating him to the active roster and letting him ball out. But no, I think he's definitely a name to watch. I don't think right now you don't want to get too excited about it because, like I said, he has been in the league for 6 years and all this other stuff. But he definitely is something that could be really good for Washington if he works at it and the team's able to develop him properly.
All right, so French just doubled up on some questions, but it's okay. I still got questions. So let's talk about the aforementioned teams. And I know it's early, so we kind of don't know what the 53-man roster will be. But we're both fans. We're all fans of our team, so we know what position allegedly will make us the true contender. So, in your perspective, one move each team needs to make, or not needs because they might not make it, but one move that the team could make that will solidify the Super Bowl. We're going overboard right here. The Super Bowl, a Super Bowl move that's out there for the team.
For each team?
Yeah, for each team.
For each team. Okay. Well, I'll go with Washington first because there's a lot of different answers you could take. Because I think they have done a lot of things to help this roster. I mean, half the roster is new from last year, so they've made a whole lot of moves. I would definitely have to say stability on the offensive line would be pretty key for them. I think just because now it wasn't all their fault last year, but they did have some of the most sacks in the NFL last year. There's still a lot of questions about what they're going. I think you're starting to see what is a starting five for that group, but even then, you still got a lot of questions because the left tackle would be a rookie. The left guard barely played at all, even though he's done some good stuff. Your center is good for sure. Your right guard is solid, and your right tackle, on the other hand, he's done some good things, but he also had some moments where he was not as great in 2023. So I definitely would say more stability off the line would be the biggest move they could definitely make for Washington. Because protecting Jaden now is probably the top priority. And even if you can get an offensive line that is just like average, I would say like you feel pretty good about that. In terms of Miami, it's hard to say because I think their offense is, like I said, one of the best in the league. I think their defense is sneaky good because, I mean, they had some of the most sacks in the NFL last year, so their pass rush is pretty solid. I feel like their secondary is pretty decent. I think it would be nice to have like a pass rushing linebacker because I think you that is something you can't really overvalue. You can't have enough of them, honestly. And that's just the truth. Like yes, you can get a good cover linebacker. That's great, but honestly, like one of the most valuable skills in the NFL right now is rushing the passer. And if you can add to that depth, like you just make your strength stronger. Like honestly, and that's especially with the playoffs. Like that's going to be a big deal for y'all because I mean, I know one of the biggest struggles for Miami over the last few years is they put up all these points. They put up really great stuff in the regular season. When the playoffs, when it gets cold, for whatever reason, it kind of starts to fall apart a little bit.
You know what's crazy, Zach?
It's the
same thing I've heard of. I think we saw something where it's the same thing for Dan Marino. I think Dan Marino struggled with the cold.
We went to DC last year, Mechanic.
I'm just saying.
We went to go see the Dub.
Just saying the cold in the playoffs is just Miami
just
thing.
Gonna drop Dan Marino right now. That's insane.
It wasn't really that cold in that game.
No. It wasn't that cold in that game, but it was a lot of fog in that game. And that first touchdown to it through came through the fog like a miracle on Sunday. I was like, there it is.
How many we put up on them?
Look, oh my goodness. Here's what I'll say to that, and this is coming from someone who works for Washington and covers Washington. I understand that Miami beat the brakes off of Washington last year, but as a team, Miami should not be worried about beating Washington to get to the playoffs.
He's not lying. But I'll tell you one thing, though, Zach. Like, I don't think you should temper your expectations given in the division you're in because it's such a volatile division, and you have a running game if you stick to it. Because low key, I'm taking Brian Robinson in my fantasy league. Also taking Scary Terry because we were asleep because he had a bad season last year. But don't worry about it. Yeah. But those you have three, and defense. Listen. Dan Quinn is a savant. We try to get Dan Quinn a couple years ago. So I think in your division it's not far fetched, and I wouldn't put it past you guys to make a nice little run. I don't like the Cowboys out of turmoil. So the Eagles are the Eagles, and you could kind of you guys always give them good games. I don't trust Danny Dunn. So
look, the NFC East has, to your point, the NFC East has not had a repeat winner in the last, I think, 10 years or so.
Right.
I mean, it's definitely going to be, there's definitely going to be a chance. I'm not going to ever eliminate their possibility of making it there, especially with the way, like, again, one preseason game, but I really like the way the offense was called last week. I like the way the defense is doing things. I think they have a lot of really good foundational pieces. And I think if, I've been saying this all offseason, is that if, teams like Washington last year that finished with 3 or 4 wins, if you can double your win total in 1 year, that's a tremendous accomplishment. That shows you have made progress. And I think they've done that. I think they've made the moves to possibly get 8, maybe 9 wins this next year. But again, like, we can't. I think it goes down to the roster development of teams like New York, of teams like Philadelphia, of teams like Dallas. I think Philadelphia from top to bottom right now, objectively, is like they have a more complete roster. Right. Because there were just so many different moves that Washington had to make to get up to this point. Same thing with Dallas. Like, yeah, they have some holes for sure, in ways that they haven't had holes in a while, but they still got Michael Parsons. They're still going to have CeeDee Lamb. They still got Dak Prescott. Like, they've still got a really solid offense. And I think their roster, again, is just not where Washington is right now. I think they're making steps to it, but I think there's still a progression that needs to happen here. And New York is kind of in the same boat as Washington. I think they could maybe surprise a couple of people for sure. Look, New York has had Washington's number for the last 4 years or so, and much to my chagrin, I have not liked seeing do that read option for like 50 yards on us, like he seems to do every year. But no, I think, like, to your point, that division historically is one of the most competitive divisions in the NFL. That's true. That's straight up, like, and you can't argue with that. So I think there's a chance for sure. I think 8 wins is what I'm seeing, but I also believe that the NFL is the NFL and parity is a real thing. Because last year, 2 years ago, we were saying the Texans had the worst roster in football. All of a sudden, they go out and they're one of the teams. So, like, right. But also, you also have to realize that stuff like that is more often than not an outlier.
Yes, outliers, yeah.
Yeah. So I think you don't want to have just a 1-year success if you're Washington. You want to have 2, 3, 4, where Miami is right now. Like, you want to be a perennial playoff contender. And I think they've started that process. If they're a little ahead of it, hey, that's great. If not, they're doing things the way that they want it to do. So either way, I think it's going to be an exciting year no matter what. I think they're going to win more games than last year. I hope. I'm pretty sure they are. But yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And I think as long as they're competing to be in the playoff graphic, with the one you see on Sunday Night Football, if you're in the playoff graphic in December, I think that's a big win for the franchise.
Thanks, Zach. Appreciate you once again for coming through. Do you have time for one more round of questions?
Sure. Yeah, bring it on. Let's go.
Okay, so I'm gonna hit you with a totally serious but off-topic question.
Sure.
Have you elevated the cookie baking game? I remember how you gave us the tips, so I'm trying to figure out if there's another evolution like the Washington Redskins are about to take, the next step to the baking game of cookies. Let the fans.
Let me tell you something. Let me tell you. So I have been on a little bit of a weight loss journey. Since we last spoke,
you look mad slim. Yeah, dude. I was about to say, I don't recognize this guy. Yeah, man. Shout out to you.
Since we last spoke, I've lost like 40 pounds.
Dude.
Yeah, amazing what a break will do to you. No, so I have taken time to bake. Haven't given up that part of my life. And recently I have made brownie cookies, so they're sandwich cookies, and they've got cookie dough icing inside. So it's inside. It has a sandwich cream. They're almost like cream pies, but they've got brownie cookie dough icing, and then another brownie cookie.
Is there a way to make it healthy? That's the $1 million question for the health nuts.
No.
Not here for that. Not here for that.
Look, here's my philosophy on desserts and sweets. I understand there are some health concerns for some people. If you need to be gluten-free, be gluten-free. That's obviously you have to do that. You've got sugar-free, you need to be sugar-free. You're diabetic, all that other stuff. But if you're just a normal person, if you're gonna eat dessert, you know what you're getting into, right? It's supposed to be unhealthy. It's a dessert. Like it's like eating pizza. Like you're not eating pizza to be healthy. You're eating pizza to eat pizza.
That's right.
Listen, it's like me and my buddy. My buddy's a vegan. Now, yeah, but let's go eat vegan chicken wing. Sir, this is cauliflower, okay?
Now, to his credit, I will say there are some vegan things out there that are tasty.
Chili. Vegan chili is amazing.
But don't tell me that it's better than regular wings.
Don't try to play me.
That's the lie you're telling yourself to make yourself feel better. Like, and that's fine if you want to do that. But no,
not on my watch.
There ain't no way that these cauliflower faux wings, which I'm sure are tasty for what they are not better than the Asian Zing wings at Buffalo Wild Wings. They're just not.
Zach,
not at all.
Now that we're here in the food topic, I have a hard-hitting question. All right.
Yeah.
We have a resident president of this club, but I'm not going to point any fingers, but he might be in your top left. Tailgate food. Is baked beans and tailgate food, yes or no? If so, are you a baked bean fan?
So, first of all, I will eat baked beans if they're cooked right. I will if they're cooked right. Now, like I'm Southern, like I will eat them because I've had some damn good ones. Put the bacon grease in there. That's how you do it, in my opinion. That said, they are not tailgate food. They're not.
Boom.
My philosophy on tailgate food is that it has to be something you can eat with your fingers. Has to be. So you got wings, definitely something you eat with your fingers. Nachos and cheese, eat with your fingers. Buffalo chicken dip, eat with chips, which you eat with your fingers. Like burgers, hot dogs, all that stuff. Like you can pick it up and eat it. It's what?
And give me a giant scoop of some baked beans right next to that. Just disgusting. Them country style baked beans
with the chili, the chili bean, French.
It ain't no chili beans.
Ain't no talking about no chili beans and no baked beans. Hey.
It's I don't want to see beans in my tailgate.
Nelly said the beans don't burn on the grill.
Listen, we don't care about Nelly. Don't bring me no beans in no damn tailgate.
If I'm passing by a tailgate, I don't want to have to get a plate because then I'm gonna have to get rid of the plate. I'd rather say, hey, I'm gonna pass by. I'm gonna get a burger and I'm gonna go to the office.
I want that.
Zach, I want you to understand. Listen, I want you to picture this. We were at a tailgate. These guys, this person over here, he literally made like a sloppy Joe with baked beans and he put potato salad in.
Now it was a sloppy Joe.
It was the best.
This is nasty work.
Zach, it was the best.
I mean, I can see where it could be good, but again, not in my tailgate.
Thank you.
We need to separate church and state here. Like,
thank you. See,
said that
you bake straight cookies, French. Respect the guests.
Seeing raisins and potato salad, like nobody wants to do that garbage.
Thank you.
Zach, I'll pivot the conversation because I don't want to stoop any lower because when they go low, I sometimes go lower. But what I will say, just to end this on a high note, I'm a bit of the historian on the team. I like the history and the pageantry of it. And I'm always bigging up the Commanders when I'm in the Twitter spaces because I always say, without the Commanders, there will be no perfect season. Without the Commanders, there will be no 72 team. And without the Commanders, you would have given a Super Bowl to the Bills, and the Bills don't have a Super Bowl because you took it.
Yeah,
so these are two monumental joys that I have in my life. I wasn't around. Well, I was around for one of them. That Bills Super Bowl. What was that? 90. What year was that you all won that Super Bowl?
Was it 91?
91.
Had to be 91. 91. Had to.
Yeah, I remember the 6th grade like it was yesterday. Just seeing those Buffalo tears. So, in a bit of the historian and the pageantry of it, I always say we got great history. What would you say is kind of one of those more iconic memories that you got with the Commanders? Just an iconic story that you can share.
Oh man, there's actually been quite a lot in the last 5 years. I've had about 20 career-defining moments since 2019, with going from the Redskins to the Washington football team to the Commanders to I would say it's. Oh man, I'm trying to pick one because there's a lot of interesting ones. I'm trying to find like the most iconic. I think to me, honestly, the one that's going to stick out to me the most is the 2020 playoff game, Buccaneers versus the Washington football team. So Taylor Heineke, I remember the score. I forget what the score was, but Taylor Heineke ducks under some Buccaneers players, dives for the pylon and barely gets it over for a touchdown, and we pull within 2 points. And and the first thing I do is I look to my left and I see the other right of the town. I was like, we're gonna win this game. Like, we're gonna win this game as a 7-9 team. It was, and that set on Heineke. One of the more interesting runs, I think, with him, because everyone loved Heineke, even though he definitely had a ceiling. I will say a more personal story for me. So my first ever live NFL game was when I was 18 years old. I'm from Nashville, so I grew up rooting for the Tennessee Titans. We went to the Titans game for my 18th birthday, and the game we played, the team we played was the Redskins. In interesting little turn there, and that was also the game that Vince Young threw his pads into the stands and left the game, which meant that Rusty Smith came in and almost took the Titans to an overtime win over the Redskins. Now the Redskins ended up winning that game. Donovan McNabb put them into field goal range, all of those stuff. But got to see Randy Moss in a Titans uniform, which is Titans legend Randy Moss. But no, that was a really cool personal moment. But the Heineke dive to the end zone will forever be burned into my brain as one of the wildest things I think I've ever seen.
Okay. All right. I like it.
Still no baked beans, sir.
Well, Zach, thank you again for coming through and hanging out with us. Where can everyone follow you? What are you working on as of recent? Please share for not only for the Commanders, but also for the fans, so they can get a perspective on both.
And the cookies.
Yeah. So, you can find me on Twitter /X, if you want to, whatever you want to call it, at Zach Selby WC. I recently put out a story about position groups to watch for the join the door practice against the Dolphins. Mentioned 3 different groups, a couple we've already talked about here. Also, I would want to bring up that if you want to learn a little bit more about Dan Quinn's history as a Division III football player and how much he made an impact on Salisbury University, you can go check out the long form piece that I wrote on him. Pretty interesting story. Got to talk to some of his old teammates and learn some of the funnier stories. I'll share one with you. He and one of his roommates he was competitive in everything. And one thing that he and one of his teammates used to do is on really hot days we're talking about August, July, they would get into a car and they'd roll the windows up and they turn the heat on full blast to see who could last the longest in the car without giving up. So there's
wow.
He didn't grow up in Florida. He did not.
No, I wouldn't have flown in Florida.
What?
But if you want to check out more about more DQ, you can check that out. Also, if you want to check out some baking things that I like to do, check out Instagram at Zach D Selby. I haven't put anything out there recently, but I've got a couple things in the works that I might be putting out there. I think the last thing I put up, but no, it's there's a couple bigger things in the works. I think maybe some donuts, maybe some cakes. You know, you really want to go fanboy over that, you can do that too.
Especially for bringing it to tailgates or parties. So
no baked beans and no, we're not doing that stuff.
And to be clear, cakes also not a tailgate food. Cookies,
no.
What about cupcakes? They're
anything you can hold with your hand.
Cupcakes and cookies, yes.
Cupcakes and cookies, yes.
You can hold a cake in your hand.
Listen,
you know you cannot.
Whenever you see me at the next tailgate, put a scoop of baked beans in my hand, and I'm gonna keep walking.
This is embarrassing. You were poisoning people.
You do that, I'm walking away. I'm not saying anything to you. I'm just walking away.
You were poisoning people. You were a bandit,
oh,
dude.
Man.
No,
God. That's foul.
I see what you were doing. He was trying to poison the Patriot people, so it makes sense.
Wally was the one who brought a Patriot fan to the tailgate. It was playing against the Patriots.
That chicken, though. That chicken
was good.
That chicken was fine, nah.
Yeah, that was good.
Anything for some chicken.
Well, Zach, appreciate you once again.
Zach,
good night. Thank you again for coming through.
Appreciate you, Zach.
Absolutely love being on with you guys. Y'all take it easy.
Have a
Yes,
good one,
sir.
And on that note, guys, you guys have a good night. Any last words before we go, fellas?
Yeah, during Smythe, they're gonna get cut. Me and Meikenberg keep stacking them days, you know what I'm saying? So we doing. Also, check out the merch. We got some merch out there. Also, I'm saying, Quentin Bell, I see you, dog. I see you, Ken Smith, back out there. Ethan Bond, you better get out there. He taking your turkey, big dog. You know what I'm talking about?
I just want to say you all have until midnight, everybody that's watching, to DM me your support of Darren Smythe. Because the amount of hell I'm going to raise during this season when Darren Smythe outperforms all these people because they can't get on the field because they can't block. I'm attacking everybody. And I just want to know who's saying.
You making threats? Is that who you
Calvin
against your community.
That's crazy. Promoted to sergeant. I got Chad.
Chaotic.
One of the generals.
But he don't want to take the bet. He don't want to take the bet. You see what I'm saying? He don't want to take the bet. He left the space early. He couldn't find. He was looking for the video clip. He couldn't find the clip. This man is a liar.
I wish Coach was here right now, so so he could put the photo up of Darren Smythe open for a touchdown. And
what did that got to do with you accepting the bet? You see, he's moving the goalpost. You see how he's moving the goalpost.
Listen.
And on that note, guys, you have a good night. I guess message French so he can tally up all the
listen.
The
message me. My DM's open.
Okay. Yeah. You have a good night, guys. Fins up.
For the win, man. Fins for the win, man. We stacking these days, man.
Let's
Shout out
get
to
this
Leo, man.
done.
We stacking these days, man.
Shout out to the